Hi there, it's Mrs. Tellas. We're going to do a video today on section 1.2, just the beginning of that section. We're just going to solve two-step today. Actually 1.2 is solve multi-step, so there's more to this section, but we're going to start with two-step today. So if we look backwards, the reason that we solve two-step equations the way we do is because of PEMDAS. So when we do PEMDAS in the correct order, that's when it doesn't have an equal sign. For example, 2 times 3 plus 9. We would multiply first because of the multiply, and then we would add second because that's the order of PEMDAS. But when we solve equations, when there is an equal sign, like 2x plus 8 equals 10, we solve it in the opposite order of PEMDAS. So we do this way. So we would start with adding and subtracting first, then we would multiply or divide, and if there were exponents or parentheses, we would do those last. So if this is our equation, we're going to add or subtract first, multiply or divide second. Remember, our objective when we're solving any equation is to get the x or the variable by itself. All right, so if we start with this first one right here, so I want to get this x right here alone. So the first step, because I'm working backwards through PEMDAS, would be to subtract 1 on both sides, here and here. So this is 2x because that just drops. Those cross out. This is negative 8. Then, because these are multiplied, I would do the opposite, which is divide. So I would divide both by 2, and x is negative 4. And I can check this and see if it's right by taking my answer and putting it in place of x. And I have that typed out over here. So, and you can use your calculator to see if this is true. So if I go to my Desmos calculator, excuse me, it was 2 times 4, let me back it up here, 2 times negative 4. I think it was minus, I don't remember what the equation was now, plus 1. Plus 1 equals negative 7. See how it equals negative 7? And if you need a calculator, if you don't have one on your Chromebook, go to desmos.com/scientific and it'll give you this calculator. This will do fractions, decimals, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's go back to the lesson. So that checks out. That's right, because this side also equals negative 7 when I put it in. So if we do number 2, same thing. Got some negatives in here. First thing I'm going to do is I want this x alone in the back when I'm finished. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That's positive 3. That crosses out, and that whole thing drops down. And then I'm going to divide by negative 3. And that's going to give me negative 1. And I could check it here. In my calculator, if I wish, negative 3 times negative 1 is 3, minus 12 is negative 9. So this one checks out too. This one's right as well. So I can put them all back in. Okay, every answer can go back in. It should make a true statement if it's right. Okay, so I have some other ones that you can do if you'd like to pause and give these a try. Any of them. I can go through them real quick, but if you would like to try them by yourself, pause right now and try them. And then I'll go through them really quick and you can see if you're right. So here I would subtract 36 and divide 2. That gives me negative 1. On the second one, I would subtract 12 if you chose to do this one. Remember, you didn't have to do all of them, but make sure you know how to do each one. Okay, make sure you're good on each one. This one's tricky because you have to drop negative 3x. So here I would subtract 6 and divide negative 3. Get negative 5. And on the last one, there's an imaginary 1 there. It's an implied 1. So first step would be to subtract 2. And then divide negative 1, which is just going to change the sign. So I hope if you tried any of the 4 that you got it right. Good job. If you did, give yourself a big old pat on the back. Okay, I've got more here. Let's try one of these. So I've got this kind. Notice this is different because it's got a fraction bar in it. Remember, the fraction bar means divide. So when we get rid of it, we're going to multiply. So again, we're going backwards through PEMDAS. So I'm going to subtract 10, both sides. That crosses out. This whole thing drops down. And then over here, that's 5. Because this right here means divide, I do the opposite, which is multiply. So I multiply by 7 on both sides. Those 7s cross out and A drops, and this is 35. Okay, and I could take my 35 and put it back in here, use my calculator. 35 divided 7 is 5, plus 10 is 15. That checks out. Okay, this one's different, and it's different because it's got the long line. Okay, so because it's got the long line, this is like it's got a parenthesis around it. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator first so I can get rid of the bottom. So I'm getting rid of that 9, and then this drops down, including the parentheses. Then I'm going to subtract 21 on both sides, and it equals 84 negative, and that's the right answer. So notice the difference when it's got the short line. We added or subtracted first on these, and over here when it had the long line, which implied parentheses around the top, we multiplied first. And again, we did that because if you look at PEMDAS backwards, parentheses is way at the back. So you had to multiply first and then do parentheses second. And that's why it's different. Okay, I'd like you to pause right now and try both of these. Try 12 and 13 on your paper and see what you come up with. Okay, so for my first step, I would add 8. This is 14. And B over 2, the whole thing drops down. Those cross out. Because this is a divide problem, I multiply by 2. And B is 28. I hope you got that right. If you did, good job. Okay, this one's different because it's got the long line. So I'm going to put a parenthesis in to help me remember, which means I have to multiply first. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator 3. So the 3's cross out and the parenthesis drops. Then I can get rid of the minus 8 by adding 8. So Y here is 20. If you got one or both of them right, give yourself a giant pat on the back. Great job. Very good. All right, I've got some others you can try if you'd like. I'd like to do this fraction one. If you want to pause and try these, you can. And I'll go ahead and do them really quick so you can see if they're right. So if you want to pause, great. If you don't, you can fast forward through these two. Okay, so this is negative 3 and negative 3. So I get 7. Multiply by 4. That's 28. I seem to be stuck on 28. And then here I would have to multiply, because these are applied parentheses, by negative 6 on both sides. That all cancels. And then I would add 15. So that's 51. And that's my answer. So if you had to do those, or if you chose to do those, there are your two answers. Good job. All right, let's look at this fraction one, because sometimes fractions are scary, but we have a calculator, so we're not super worried about it. Okay, it's the same steps. I still want to get x by itself. So I'm going to make a t. I'm going to get rid of the minus 5/8. So that's going to make me plus 5/8. So the 5/8 cross out. 1/3 x drops. And then over here, negative 9/10 plus 5/8 gives me negative 11/40. And because there's a fraction in front of the x, like we learned in section 1.1, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So all of that cancels and x drops. And then I just multiply straight across, and that gives me negative 33/40. Or feel free to use your calculator there if you're more comfortable that way. This totally works too. But it's not any harder. It's the same step. First I added, and then I multiplied by the reciprocal. Okay, I'm all done. I hope you are good to go. You're going to start that big ideas lesson now, and you can either do it on a piece of paper and submit it electronically, or you can submit it through Big Ideas. I would prefer you submit it through Big Ideas, but if you don't have internet at home, I understand. All right, great. Have a good day. Bye.